eventually you get absorbed in, and you are Sonic.
What's up, everybody? I'm Taylor Olmstead, and I want to welcome you back to No Repeat, a podcast where we pick 3 songs every week with no repeats and no do-overs to create a perfect playlist for every occasion life throws at you. Joining me are my co-hosts Tyler Reed.
I just want to make an announcement, everybody, that I now hate Wario. He's not my friend.
And Sean Evans.
If I have to hear somebody say the words, Happy Mother's Day, mothers, one more time, I'm going to lose my mind.
We are recording this on Mother's Day. When you hear this, it won't be Mother's Day anymore, but boy, it seems like this was a lot of performative mother loving this year.
There was, I feel like this Mother's Day since last year's Mother's Day was kind of like the first parental holiday that you really couldn't, do as much, right? That people just went hard this year. Like,
everybody was, oh my God, hugging my mom. And it's like, okay, yeah, I'm very, very happy. But also, like, my mom is 400 miles away. I did not get to hug her on Mother's Day. We FaceTimed, just like last year. So, like, maybe cool your jets a little bit. I mean, I'm very happy for you. Don't get me wrong. I'm just like, I'm ready for it to be Monday.
In some respects, I kind of like the distance a little bit because, like, I had the privilege to watch in less than an hour 3 families trot out to the Rose Garden behind my apartment building and then take those generation pictures, where there's like grandchild, child, grandmother, or like 4 generations of mothers all together. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be everybody's feed today. Like, it's basically like, well, we didn't see each other last year, so I guess the urgency just seems very urgent.
I think that's going to be every holiday this year. Like, until we hit Thanksgiving, really, it's going to be like, oh my gosh, best Memorial Day ever, best 4th of July ever.
Arbor Day. God, I love those trees, baby. You know it.
We can finally hug trees again.
Listen, 2026 is going to be the best 4th of July. That's 250.
That's true. But we're not here to celebrate America and its independence from Britain.
Or moms.
Tonight. And we're not talking about moms either.
Sorry, moms.
Tyler, what are we talking about?
This week, we were challenged to find the perfect song for Gettin the Job Done. If you want to submit your own challenge, you can DM us on Instagram or Twitter at NoRepeatPod, or you can send us an email at norepeatpod@gmail.com.
Tyler, this was your challenge. Do you want to paint us a word picture of how you got this idea?
I mean, really, the original conceit was that the perfect song for when you eat a ice-cold chalky milk, because because I had just gotten done doing like a really like monotonous like sort of like automatic sort of process I just kind of needed to get through, and it was like every hour I had to get up and like stretch my legs and do something else, and I was like, all right, sit back down. All right. So we sort of changed the conceit to sort of be the feeling of, you just got one last thing you gotta do. Let's final home stretch. You're just the perfect song for getting that job done.
This is something that I think I'm coming back around to as we start to leave COVID. So I'm really glad that we are like talking about it right now, because I think in the middle part of the pandemic lockdown, it felt very like time has no meaning. And like Fridays were just kind of like other days, like every other day. But now, like, people are going into the office more often at my job, and we're talking about like concrete plans of when everyone's going to be required to go in for at least a few days a week. And like, it's starting to become more real. And I work for a university. This week was finals week. It's like the busiest time of the year. We're doing graduation, like all of this stuff. And so this week was kind of the perfect week for this challenge, because it's really like the final sprint. And then this Friday we had graduations, and then the semester is over, and it's like everyone gets to breathe. And so that's kind of what I was trying to capture in my song pick this week is like sometimes, especially if you work in a seasonal business like education, like you just go through those big sprint periods where like everything is nuts and it's like, 9 to God knows when you're working or you're thinking about work. And then there's always like one Friday where all of a sudden you see the light at the end of the tunnel and you're like, if I just make it through this workday, it's over. And after we ran our last like live stream virtual commencement on Friday, I was just like, wipe my hands of this. I'm done, baby. Crack open a cold one. I have gotten spring semester 2021 done. Next time the students are really here, we'll be quasi back to normal on campus for fall 2021. And I'm so excited to just like be done for a minute. But what about you guys? How did you come to your picks?
I forgot about Cold Chalky. Because that was the original one. It was that's the one that I really liked because I thought it was such an interesting idea. But this is good, man. I think
we can have Cold Chalky later. It's fine.
Yeah, the spirit is the same. Mine is like kind of pushing through. I remember a few years ago at work, one of my colleagues pointed out that I have a little ritual. I don't do it so much anymore, but like when I was in the glorious world of retail and I knew I was about to go out and have to like work something that I really did not want to work, I did this like thing where I would breathe in and then I would just say, okay. And it was very much like this. Okay. And then I would just walk out. Like it was like it was like my go right before, you like jump out of the plane or something. Like my little pep talk. And I thought, is there a song that I listened to lately where I was like, this is what it would be. This is what would soundtrack that. Okay. And then just like walk out from behind the door and solve the problem. So it wasn't really so much the job is complete as much as it is like, let's just push through this. Like, let's just get this done.
That makes me think of, there's this, I'm sure she's talked about it in multiple places, but I remember this like behind the scenes thing that Matt and Kim did where Kim talks about her pre-show ritual. And the last thing she does before every show is she puts a cough drop in her mouth. And then right as she's walking on stage, she spits it out. And there's something about like the menthol that she's just like, this is my trigger. It's time to go.
Right.
And I feel like that's kind of you. You're like, spit out the cough drop, walk out onto the floor. It's time.
Right. Oh, I'm big on like the rituals of stuff. Like when I was bike racing, I used to do the whole like I got in the routine of doing the Japanese temple clap like right before the race. So it'd be like dead quiet, and I'd just be like and bow, and then I was like ready to go. Like I don't know why that did it for me. It was probably because I was like watching a lot of NHK like right when I was doing that, but like right then I was just like I'm like centered and ready to do the task at hand. This little ritual, so I totally get that. It's interesting that there's like a flavor with it.
Yeah, I know. But I
get it.
I also appreciate like she also exclusively drinks Budweiser on show days, like Bud Heavy. So like in the dressing room, she's like drinking a Bud Heavy, and then she has Bud Heavy behind the drums on stage. But then she mixes in a menthol cough drop, and I'm like, those two flavors do not go together.
You can tell that you have never smoked.
Apparently.
you never been like, oh man, I just had like the grossest warm Bud Light ever. I just need a Camel Crush right now to really make this 3 beers feel like 7. Tyler's gonna throw up, but doesn't know.
Tyler, what was your inspiration this week?
Oh, okay. So normally this would be the part where I would just throw on a lo-fi album or like there, like I feel like a lot of the things I kind of would have chosen for this challenge are kind of already on the board. So I had to kind of think about sort of outside of myself because I did. I feel like normally I would just sort of pick a song or I pick an album that's just kind of in my rotation that I've really been kind of like hyper fixating on. But that being said, there are good albums to hyper fixate on. And so I was trying to think of a song that really like sort of like really had like a sort of like primal like fixation that kind of like I was like, this song resonates with me on some sort of primary level. But I really just think any kind of song that has like Like, because it's kind of like you're, because I feel like sometimes maybe like a lo-fi is not enough for like the final stretch. You're like, that is for like the middle part. But like the last quarter, the last 15%, you kind of need something to go Super Saiyan on, and that's kind of like, but you know, I'm still like sitting at a desk, so it's not really that, you know, like I can't have like, you know, Arch Enemy playing because I'm not doing anything that crazy. So like I wanted something that really kind of focused on being catchy and sort of it had like addictive quality to it, or like was just kind of long or it was like a good jam or something like that. So I don't know, it was kind of more ephemeral this time for what I kind of ended up kind of like choosing. It wasn't really like genre specific.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a vibey episode, I think. And on that note, if it's all right with you guys, I think I'll go first. This week, I chose Giants by Bare Hands. Giants was kind of the breakout single for alt-rock band Bare Hands. I really don't know a ton about them. This is off kind of their, if it's not their debut, it was like their sophomore album. It was 2013. And I just absolutely fell in love with this song and subsequently with the album. I have not listened to anything else they've put out since. And it seems to have gotten pretty good reviews, like all of their other albums, but the frantic energy of this record and this song in particular has just always resonated with me. I love how the verses are like, they're not quite rap, but he's like shouting them at you, and then the chorus is just so smooth and like not quite psychedelic, but like a little woozy almost. It kind of feels like when you've had 3 drinks and you stand up and you're like, oh, okay. And you have to kind of like balance yourself. And I think that's part of what I've always loved about this song is like, it's like you're working really hard to get through these verses with all the words and the emphatic delivery. And then the chorus is this moment to like exhale and really just like breathe out and be like, I did it. It feels like an achievement to get through this song. I've never seen them live, but I would imagine that it would be kind of like that watching them play it, because it fluctuates so much in tempo across the course of the song that it seems like it would be hard, and like you really have to like put in the work to make this song happen. And so that's kind of why I picked it. It just felt like it was trying really hard and succeeding at what it did.
You know, given the extra context you kind of started with in the beginning, with being like, this is sort of like the last moments, like you are at the end and you're like, this is it, I'm getting the job done. Because there really is a sort of, because like you said, there's a sort of feels like a celebratory energy to it in the way it's kind of like constructed, kind of like how you're saying. Because I feel like this is not a song I would want to listen to if I was like getting started for like that last session. This is like, all right, I got to do like one more thing. All right, we're going to switch this song. I've been listening to this album for 3 hours. Let's go for this last one. So yeah, but I think it's really I feel like we've been trying to think about, like, we try to think of different ways of interpreting the songs in the way that we choose them. And I think it's really cool to be like, I think that how sort of like intense the verses are with a really relaxed chorus, I think is a really smart interpretation of the challenge, because you're right, it does have like a sort of intensity to it, and that would kind of put me out of the zone like while I'm kind of like working. But you're right, kind of like when it kind of starts to chill out at the chorus, you're like, ooh, this is refreshing, this is nice. So yeah, so I think this is a good combination of sort of like the tone of the song feels good for what the challenge is, but also compositionally it also works well.
This was the first song that you picked that I feel like that was a modern song that I've actually heard. Like I know of this song. I have it on my saved playlist someplace.
I'd believe that.
It surprises me sometimes when I pick stuff and you guys know who they are. It makes me feel like I live under a rock. Like I don't listen to that much music, which is sometimes true and sometimes not. this really feels like it would be on a playlist on Spotify that was, or Apple Music, called Reggae 2K.
Explain yourself.
Because it has that like flowing beat, like it kind of has that like, it has like a very, that's not bad, just to clarify, that's not bad. It has a very like boom, chicka boom, chicka boom, chicka boom, chicka feel to it, right? And like, I like that it has that flow. It's easy to listen to because of that. Not only does it feels like successful, and like Tyler said, it has that nice quiet chorus, which is relaxing to listen to, but it also has that like fun reggae intensity. Like the verses are party reggae, right? Where you're just like, yeah, like you're jumping and then you go into the chorus and you're like kind of, you're easy going. That's really fun. I think this is a great fit for the challenge. And yeah, what an interesting song. I didn't know 2013 was the year this came out.
Yeah.
I feel like it should be more recent than that.
It was I was still working at summer camp, and this was like the album of that summer for me and my friends that worked there. Like, we just had this on in all of our cars all the time. And it's a very weird album. Like, this is probably the most accessible, like, poppy song on it, obviously. Like, it's this kind of, like, sexy love song. But there's a song on it about, like, agoraphobia and, like, neurosis. And, like, it goes into some pretty dark places for a record that, like, the lead single is this. But it all kind of has this vibe. And so I've always wanted to, like, look into what this band is doing now. But I love this record so much that I'm almost scared to, because I'm afraid it's going to ruin it. I
like that guitar line.
It's so bright.
And the bridge is cool too. It seems very out of the ordinary. When you hear it, you're like, wow, how did you just do this really cool, like, indie rock kind of thing? I would love to just listen to a band that sounds like the bridge, right? Like, it's very attractive to me to hear that kind of like wailing guitar. And he kind of changes the way that he does his lyrics a little bit, and I like how choppy they are too. Like, the way that he does his vocal performance is very nice, and it almost mimics how hard the percussion is in it too, where it's just like boom, 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 boom. Like, there's not like a lot of like, until he gets to more, when it's finally more, and then that's kind of that first time that you really hear that. I don't want to call it fry, there's probably a better term for it, but like that first time that you kind of actually stretch the vocal performance there.
Yeah, it's a really strange tactic, and I've just always found it super alluring. I don't know why. Well, I think it makes the most sense probably to go from there to Sean's pick.
Oh, okay.
Sean, what do you have for us?
All right, so this week I chose Party Baby, I Don't Want to Wait.
Realize that we're coming down. It's coming. I don't wanna wait. 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 I don't wanna wait no more. Might be better to roll with it. It might be better to roll with it. It might be better to roll with it. God damn, it might be better to roll with it.
So, how do I talk about this? We all picked songs this week for the playlist that are very high energy, which is interesting because I feel like sometimes we either have a really good challenge and we have kind of weird songs. There's not really all the time when we connect and have like a really tight playlist that fits everything really well. This episode does it. Spoiler alert, Tyler's song is awesome. Let's see. How did I come up with this song? I think it was on one of my Spotify liked playlists, and I ended up putting it on one of my like bike riding playlists because it's such high energy, and I love the chorus. Like, I didn't expect it till I heard it, and I was like, wow, this is so good. It just like, it has everything. Like, it comes up and then it just stops and it just drops, and I'm just like, oh, it's like, it's exactly how I feel when I'm about to go do something that I'm like, okay, let's just get the job done. You're kind of like coming up to the point, and then it's just like, okay, boom, and you go, and it's done, and you're just, I don't know, video game reference here, where you're just like fighting your way through the thing to get to the princess or whatever, I don't know, it's just cool. I figured you guys would like it too, because it has lots of elements of this feels like a Taylor band, so I figured that he would really like that, and I know that Tyler has a soft spot in his heart for some party rock. So,
Party
I don't know.
rocket in the house tonight.
Dancing party rock.
No, please God.
Yeah, this is right in my sweet spot because it's like early 2000s garage revival, but with like a little bit of the like 2010s synth rock. I just listened to it initially, and now that I see that it's from 2016, like it totally makes sense because it feels like an evolution of a lot of the like alt rock tropes that have been happening over the last like 15 or 20 years. They have clearly been listening to all the bands that we listen to. And I think that's why I like it, is it's like a little bit of everything. The lead vocal performance is a little nasal, which isn't a problem for me, but I could see how it's a little grating for some people. And he doesn't really have like lead singer energy, which is fine for me in a band like this, I think, but I don't know. Like, I love the ooh background vocals on the chorus. I guess I like, maybe what it is because his voice is so like in the high end, I want more vocal depth on the verses to like back him up, because it feels like he's like up here on the top of the mountain and the whole band is like down at base camp. Like I want something to like bridge that gap. That being said, the energy is incredible. Like, the riff is spot on. You're right. Those false stops are just like perfectly timed and executed. Doing a false stop into a chorus is a real risk because you have to do it every time. And yet they execute it perfectly every time. I'm just like, how does this keep working? How does this keep working? Like, it's a gimmick. Most people do it in the bridge because you can only get away with one. They're just like, nope. Every chorus, false stop. You thought we were done? We're not.
Counterpoint to what you said about having the shrill voice, Coheed and Cambria.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
When you have that shrill voice, it really lets you hear the bass line and everything else under it.
That's true. And this is a very bass-heavy production as well, which I like for this kind of music, because it really just, like, this is the music that you, like, jump around to, you know? You're not looking for subtlety here. There's a pit opening up to this song, and I'm into that. I miss it. I'm ready to go. This song makes me want to be at a show, drinking a tall boy, just, like, on the floor. Yeah, great energy. I need to check them out.
You know, I feel like this is definitely a band that, like, I'm listening to it right now, and I'm like, I don't know if I would, like, be in, like, the pit for this, right? But it's like, I know that there's something about the intensity of a live performance that always kind of, like, amps it up, and I'm sure I would feel that way. I feel like, I don't know, there's a sort of, it's weird that I'm feeling this way, because it does feel like there's a lot of build-up, and there's a lot of, like, attack and release here going on. So it's like, well, yeah, of course there would be people getting rowdy. I think it's really fun that Sean's kind of like recalling his days in retail, because this does sort of feel like a song that would be like a black sheep in like a clothing store like playlist, which, to be fair, usually those places do have pretty good playlists. So like if it's like a curated playlist, pretty good. This feels like that exact sort of like energy where it's like sort of like a song you would Shazam automatically. But it does definitely have that energy of that Sean was exactly talking about, where he's like, all right, I'm gonna do it. It's exactly replicated, and you know that's one of my favorite things in music. I've talked about it on this here podcast where I'm like, the best notes are the one that aren't played. So I think this is sick. I love that is there a synth? Is this a secret synth?
Yes. There definitely is a synth in there. It's just very low in the mix.
I'm looking at the music video and I can't see the person.
I can't see a synth either. Yeah, I heard that as well. I was like, I hear a synth, but I don't see a synth.
But no, I like the vocal performance. I feel like Taylor's like, I feel like some people won't like this, and I don't know who he was talking to.
Whatever.
But I don't know, I feel like any sort of like adds extra like level of charisma to it. I feel like you always appreciate someone who kind of like goes outside of the box in any way of like, I feel like the standard like sort of like garage rock dude that's like gonna sing kind of apathetically, or he's just gonna kind of like grunt at you. So I feel like this is kind of like a, you know, this is a nice breath of fresh air, I feel like, in terms of garage psych rock vocals. So yeah.
Well, Tyler, that just leaves you. What do you have for us?
This week I chose Is It Always Binary by Soulwax. So this song has been on my B-sides for God knows how long, for however many challenges, because it's just so good. Because it is 100% an earworm, because it's so repetitive, but it's just such a seductive, like, synth line that just gets stuck in your head and you can't get it out. And I feel like over time doing this podcast, we've kind of learned that I'm a very percussion focused person. Like, I like a good percussion, like good drummer or just a good beat in general. And this song right out the gate.
You called?
There he is, the percussionist. Play those claves. But I mean, this song, like, right out the gate, very percussion forward. And that's awesome. Like, I included the live performance of this song, and there's like 4 people doing drums for this song. They didn't need to do that, but I mean, like, the effect, like, is really interesting and exciting. But yeah, there's just something about the sort of secular nature of the song that really just grabs me. And honestly, it just feels like I could just put it on repeat and just keep it going. Maybe because it kind of, the song structure is pretty, like, consistent. There doesn't really do a lot. It kind of keeps you going. But, like, my thought was just kind of like, I'm kind of in the thick of it, and I'm just trying to just keep moving, just trying to keep that energy going. And I feel like it has a feeling of perpetual motion, sort of like like a Rhapsody in Blue, where it's kind of, or like a Powerhouse from like a Looney Tunes like thing, where it's like you just imagine like a factory and it's just doing the same things over and over and over again. That's kind of like how I'm like imagining myself in as I'm like working. I'm like this machine that's just continuously doing this thing. And I do feel like the album art and sort of like the vocals that are in there all kind of also reflect a sort of robotic nature to it. So yeah, that's what I picked.
Soulwax is such an interesting act because they exist in kind of this like hallowed ground of electronic groups that are like specifically for music nerds. You know, they're up there with your LCD sound systems and your Chemical Brothers, where like the heads know who they are. You know, they're like a layer deeper than Daft Punk, but they're not quite so deep as like, you know, the really experimental stuff. There's still a pop sensibility. It's still something you could hear in a club. And that's a space that I love to play in. And I love when an act like this, be it, you know, Soulwax or LCD or Chemical Brothers, is really like limiting themselves sonically, like they're doing on this track, where it's really just drums and analog synths and a little bit of vocoder. And I think that's what is like the mark of good electronic music is, can you make a compelling track with as few elements as possible? You know, you can add more textures and more synths on in remixes or whatever, but like, is the heart of the track catchy and good? And this track is catchy as hell. Like, you can't help but move to it. It just propels you. And it has a few different hooks. Like, it has the drum hook, it has the synth hook, it has the vocal hook. But each one of them is memorable. And I think that's what makes it so good, is like, it's like all chorus. Like, every part of it gets stuck in your head, separately and together. And I think that is like the hallmark of a really good composition. Watching them play this live, they just seem like a well-oiled machine. Like, it's very much like watching an LCD sound system performance. It's like 2 people in this case write this song, and then it takes like an army of extremely talented musicians to reproduce it. And I love that. Like, I have so much respect for what they're doing here. This is awesome.
I agree. I think that's because my first true love was percussion and drums. I automatically was just really into it from hearing it in the first place. I love all the kind of like slow John Bonham-y kind of drum fills that make up the drum part that are just so classic rock and power. Like, they're just power fills, and they're beautiful and simple. And it's like, if you could do a synth line on drums, it would be power fills. It's like Phil Collins, like that. Doom, 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 doom. Like, it's just like, you don't have to do a lot, right? Like, It's just like, that's the sound that you just expect. It's like the meme that you know. I feel like I've heard you mention them, but I've never heard one of their songs before. And okay, spoiler alert, Sean's a big fan of big bands and Arcade Fire kind of big bands. So like, seeing this was really awesome. And I'm watching another one of their live performances right now. It's so clean. Oh my God. It's so good just to hear like little bits of stuff. It reminds me of so much electronic music, right? Like, it remind of like what you said, LCD sound system and whatever else, but I also get some like Nine Inch Nails kind of feelings there. I love a nice fun analog synth. It has to have like the right BPM to be a good song for me, to kind of like match the like, you can really mess a song up by playing it too fast or too slow. And all of these are done really, really well. And kind of to what Taylor was saying, and Tyler, to what you were saying too, it takes a lot of talent to kind of know where to limit yourself, right? Like, sometimes that's the hardest part, is knowing where the cutoff should be, especially with synths, because I feel like with synth, and more so with like modern guitar, the tendency seems to be just create as much of a wall as you can, and not even in like a wall of like a shoegaze kind of sound, just layer so many effects on top of each other that you basically are your own one-man band, and it kind of just sounds like mud after a while, right? Like, you just put every color on the canvas and you end up with just brown, you know, like there's nothing to kind of show you where the gradations happen and kind of give you a sense of all the diversity around you and what other musicians and artists are bringing to the table. Totally get that with Soulwax. Awesome pick. All right, and with that, it's time for some notable B-sides. Has anybody got some notable B-sides?
Sure do. I couldn't pick yet another one, but to Check It Out by Beastie Boys is definitely on the list. A lot of good Beastie Boys tracks for this kind of challenge. Strange Times by Black Keys, I feel like does a similar fast slow thing that I really enjoy. And then Fool's Gold by the Limousines. That band is awesome. They only released 2 records. Not enough people have listened to them. Both are great. Definitely check them out.
This week, I had just a few. I had Starfish by Standards, Hullabaloo by In the Pines, Plans by Kate NV, and Toy Dog by Eyeliner.
I kind of heard this one knowing that this was going to be the challenge this week, and I kind of went after it. So I don't really have any other B-sides. Also, I feel like your guys' songs were just better than mine, too, so I don't really have anything to contribute here.
Don't say that.
I don't often say that because you guys have terrible music taste, and mine is clearly the best.
Yeah.
Listen to Billy Joe Armstrong, you'll find
really
out that I
it
love
is.
having kudos heaped onto me. I mean, I think you guys did a fantastic job this week, and I don't have anything else to add to that.
Well, Tyler, if people want to heap kudos onto you, where can they do that?
Oh, please do. You can find my design and illustration work at rudepets.club, and as always, find me on socials as Rudepets Club on Instagram and Twitter.
Sean, if people want to critique your taste, where can they do that?
You can find me on Instagram at TellySean.
And if you want to applaud me and my sensibilities, you can find me on the socials at TC Olmstead, and we'll be back here next week with another episode of No Repeat.